As we want to get this thing taken care of, including fire management assistance grants to help multiple states stop the fires. More than 28,000 firefighters and first responders are combating the fires in California, Oregon, and Washington. Over 230 soldiers are fighting the August complex fire, and that's the largest fire in California. Yep. That's the big one. That's the biggest. Yep. And we want to thank all of the brave fighters. We want to thank these incredible people, the first responders, service members who are racing to the extreme peril, really, of their lives and extreme danger. Soon after the event, I'll present the Distinguished Flying Cross to 7 military heroes who recently braved raging fire and suffocating smoke to save lives. So we have 7 people that were recommended very strongly by your representatives, and we're going to give them a very nice medal, very important medal, for a U.S. medal that's very powerful, very important. Yep. So I know you like that. Together we'll keep the people safe. I want to thank the governor for the job he's done. We've had great coordination, great relationship. I know we come from different sides of the planet, but we actually have a very good relationship. Good man. And Governor, would you like to say something, please?
No. Well, it's great to have you back here in the state, Mr. President. Thank you for being here, in particular with 2 of the Coast Guard aircrafts that we're now bringing into the California family that are being retrofitted, these C-130s. Just an example, another example of the partnership between the federal government and the state of California. That partnership, of course, extended with incredible collaborative spirit of FEMA. Pete has done an amazing job. He's known by first name as Pete out here in the state of California. Bob Fenton, his regional director. We're joined by Tom Porter, the chief of CAL FIRE, head of natural resources, Wade Crowfoot. Pleased to have the Fresno County mayor here, Mayor Mims, and of course, supervisor from up north in Siskiyou was kind enough to come all the way down. We've got fires from Siskiyou County, right up there at the border of Oregon, all the way down to the Mexican border. About a month ago, literally to the day, we began to have a series of 14,000 lightning strikes over a 3-day period. 1,100 fires have sparked in the last month. 2.8 million acres just in the last 30 days have burned. Unprecedented in California history. 3.2 million over the course of this calendar year. There's over 16,500 firefighters currently out in the lines, and I'm very pleased and I'm very grateful, Mr. President, that you're recognizing some of the other heroes, those National Guardmen and women that did an extraordinary job saving the lives of hundreds and hundreds of people stranded with some of these most intense fires. You mentioned the August complex, 789,000 acres, the largest in California history. We have a series of forest fires, but also brush fires and grass fires that we're tackling. We've made great progress in the last few weeks, though tragically we've lost 24 lives so far to these battles. 4,200 plus structures have been lost and 44,000 people have evacuated. I want to thank you and acknowledge the work that you've done to be immediate in terms of your response to our FMAG request 14. We were just talking, Mark Gilladucci is the head of the Office of Emergency Service. This may be a record that the states received in the FMAG support, as well as the major disaster declaration, which you referenced on August 22nd, which was profoundly significant, not only to help us support our mutual aid system, but also individuals that are in desperate need of support. We can agree to disagree, and I appreciate your frame on the politics of this, but let me just acknowledge 2 things briefly, and I'll turn it back to you. There's no question when you look past this decade and looking past almost 1,000+ years that we have not done justice on our forest management. I don't think anyone disputes that. I want to acknowledge we have our U.S. Forest Representative here. The state of California, your administration just entered into a first-type commitment over the next 20 years to double our vegetation management and forest management. Right. I want to thank you for supporting that effort, funding that effort. We acknowledge our role and responsibility to do more in that space, but one thing is fundamental. 57% of the land in this state is federal forest land. 3% is California. So we really do need that support. We need that emphasis of engagement, and we are fully committed to working with you to advance that cause. And final point, I'd be negligent, and this is not, and we've known each other too long, and as you suggest, the working relationship I value. We obviously feel very strongly that the hots are getting hotter, the dries are getting drier. when we're having heat domes, the likes of which we've never seen in our history, the hottest August ever in the history of the state, the ferocity of these fires, the drought, 5+ years, losing 163 million trees to that drought, something's happened to the plumbing of the world. And we come from a perspective, humbly, where we submit the science in and observed evidence is self-evident, that climate change is real, and that is exacerbating this. And so I think there's an area of at least commonality on vegetation, forest management, but please respect, and I know you do, the difference of opinion out here as it relates to this fundamental issue on the issue of climate change.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Chad, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for coming to Sacramento today and, again, taking that decisive action that we heard the governor talk about and really pulling the full resources of the federal government here to California as well as to other areas out here in the West. Let me just reiterate the great partnership that we have between FEMA, the U.S. Forest Service, CAL FIRE, OES, the governor's office. It's really the partnership, it's really a model that we have out here in California that we think is just fantastic. It's getting a lot of support locally here very quickly. So I just wanted to reiterate that and say thank you to our partners for what you do every day. Let me just say they also do a great job on mutual aid. So they pull in a number of fire resources from outside of the state as well as country, for that matter. We were talking earlier about some international partners that they have here. We're happy to support that as well. And then let me just say thanks, as you did, Mr. President, to the brave firefighters and all the first responders that are responding every day to the fires that we see here. Those are the heroes of the day, and we're just happy to be part of that process, happy to support them with the resources through your office, Mr. President, and just really, again, look forward to the partnership we have here and continuing to push that along.
Well, they're doing a great job, and they really have over the years. It's a tough battle, but they've never let us down.
No.
Incredible what they're able to do and the risk and the danger. Pete Gaynor, please, FEMA.
Sir, you're going to hear this constantly about the partnership. I can't say enough about the federal, the state, counties, tribes working together out here in California from the governor on down. It is a true team effort. And I know, through the major disaster decks and the FMAGs have allowed the governor and his team to exercise all the resources that the federal government has to protect, to respond and protect life, and that's the #1 priority. I know we're going to be working on debris removal, and then lastly, protection of the watershed to prevent follow-on disasters come the wet season. So together, I couldn't be prouder to be part of this team in California.
That's great. Thank you, Pete. Great job. Let everybody know what we think. Incredible job. So Wade and Tom, please.
Yeah, well, from our perspective, there is amazing partnership on the ground, and there needs to be. As the governor said, we've had temperatures explode this summer. You may have learned that we broke a world record in the Death Valley, 130 degrees. But even in greater LA, 120+ degrees. And we're seeing this warming trend make our summers warmer, but also our winters warmer as well. So I think one area of mutual agreement and priority is vegetation management. But I think we want to work with you to really recognize the changing climate and what it means to our forests and actually work together with that science. That science is going to be key, because if we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand and think it's all about vegetation management, we're not going to succeed together protecting Californians.
Okay. It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Hey, well, I don't think science knows, actually. Tom, please.
So, Mr. President, if you're okay, I'd like to approach the map. And
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Go ahead.
Governor, good?
That's great. Thanks, Chief.
So on my way, I'll just reiterate. But I wanted to approach the map because what this display is very simply is all of the green is federal lands, Forest Service, BIA, BLM, all of the agencies included, Fish and Wildlife Service. The yellow is all private land. And then that 3%, you can't really see, it's scattered out here, that's the state lands. But what we have showing here is the ownership and then the fires that we're currently fighting. All the way from down up near the Mexican border, within 8 miles of the Mexican border, all the way into Oregon. So we've got a 1,000-mile spread between these fires. We have about, in order to put line around these fires with all the partnership we're talking about, we have to cut line, scrape line in the ground from here to Chicago. So it's a lot of dirt we have to move. But
And why is that? Why are you doing that?
you have to put a line between the green and the black in order to put a fire out.
Really?
We do. So what we're seeing is in the south here, in around 2000, we had beetle kill that caused large fires, the Cedar Fire, the old fire,
Right.
the Grand Prix, huge fires in 2000. 2010s through the 15 time, massive beetle kill in this area and large fires throughout.
Well, those trees have died anyway,
They died
from the beetle kill.
From beetles, from drought.
so they were largely dead, or the area was largely dead in terms of the
So
trees?
they died from the beetle kill, and now they're being burned up by the fires. Now we're also seeing here's the
Do you
redwood.
view that differently when the trees are dead and the whole area, because I know the beetle kill has been terrible.
Yes.
So do you view that differently? And now you're going to be clearing it or doing whatever you're going to do?
163 million, so it's,
Yeah.
boy, it's a
No, it's
hell of a
something.
job, right, to start clearing that out.
Yeah. So we focus
But those
around-
trees are dead and therefore they're very flammable, they're
They
explosive.
are. They are. And so then we have what I'll call the asbestos forest, the redwood region. It doesn't burn more than a few hundred acres on occasion. With this year we have 85,000 plus almost 60,000 plus these fires are getting into redwood as well. We're gonna have over
So
100,000.
why is not, because of the thickness, the power of the tree, why aren't they burning?
They have bark that's about 2 feet thick.
And they're very
And
wet.
they're very wet, they're very resilient to fire. So
Are you
they're-
losing some redwoods or almost
Some
none?
redwoods are dying, but most of them will be okay. It's everything else that's getting.
No
too
kidding,
cut.
that's something. I'd never heard that before. So with time they could go, but the fact is they don't go with the fires. That's a fantastic.
Yeah, and they're 2,000 years old in that area.
That is so incredible. Huh?
It's incredible to see.
Think of that, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the landscape.
So your giant redwoods are where? What area? The giant
So
redwoods.
we have coastal redwoods, and then we have giant sequoia, which is they're the biggest girth of a tree.
And they're in good shape.
They're getting burned, but they will also survive. Those ancient trees will survive. But this fire down here, the SQF complex, is
Will the bark regenerate on the outside eventually?
the bark will continue to accumulate on the outside, and then the tree will continue to survive.
Do you see a big difference?
Yes.
You see, will that change with time, where you don't see it, or will you always know there was a fire there?
We'll always know there was a fire.
You'll always know
'Cause
on the redwoods.
They get scars.
Yeah.
Over time. That's how we can tell.
Well,
how
that
old
in
they are.
itself is a shame when you think, right?
Oh, boy.
That in itself is a shame. So that's an incredible story. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mark, would you like to say something?
Well, Mr. President, first of all, thanks for being here. The term I use here is a term I use, one team, one fight, and it really does represent everything that you're seeing today. All the agencies that we're working with before, during, and then after these disasters occur. I couldn't be more pleased. Our partnership with FEMA has been fantastic. Right now, as you mentioned, you've provided a major disaster for 11 counties within the state, different categories, and many of the people who have lost things have already started to register with FEMA, and that's been really a beneficial support to
Right,
us.
right.
So we appreciate that. And the mitigation is really, really critical. Since 2017, we've done 94 projects, about $138 million worth of mitigation focused on fire prevention. It's a whole variety of different kinds of projects and programs within the wildland and what we call the WUI, the wildland urban interface, to try to buy down the amount of impacts that these fires are occurring. And so we really appreciate that. All these new fires and this new declaration provides additional mitigation funds, which we will turn back around and continue to support the mitigation
How many
efforts.
individual fires do you have?
I think we have right now actively about 29 major fires.
So when you add them all up, this is about as big as it's ever been, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, 1,100 just since, I mean, think about that, 1,100 fire starts in the last 29 days, with 29 complexes.
So
that are
we
the
all put
largest
them
we've
out. Most of them are put out early.
making tremendous progress. The three largest, they're still active. Two of them are substantially contained.
Yeah.
The August, we have still a lot of work to do.
And Governor, if I could, just for the president, this is a bar chart that shows the acreage burned over the years. Top bar is this year. And the real scary part, Mr. President, is we're only partway through the season.
Right.
The worst fire that you obviously visited, the Paradise Fire, happened
bad
in
one.
October. So we're still, staring down the barrel of worse fires potentially this
We
year.
were there together. Let me ask you in Paradise. So did they have, it was like a blowtorch, right? Because the winds are 85 miles an hour. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. So that was different. Has there ever been anything like that in terms of the power?
It could be argued you had a narrow escape. A more pliable female might better suit.
There will be no other female.
Hasn't impacted our woodland, but the families that have lived there for generations in that area. The Big Creek hydroelectric power generating system that served California for over 100 years is destroyed, as well as the people that live there in their homes that operate that system. One major concern in the future is erosion, slope stability, ash runoff, and possible mudslides as a result.
So what's going to
of
take
this.
the place of that generator? What are you going to do?
We have to actually restart it. It's Southern California Edison.
So you'll be able to fix it and restart it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Cleared the process.
It's a big damage? Big?
Well, it was a hydroelectric plant that wasn't directly damaged, but there was damage leading up to the facility.
I see.
And so we'll mitigate all that now.
I love hydroelectric. I think it's great. You must like that. I love the hydroelectric. Go ahead, please.
So far, we've had over 300 structures that have burned, but we could have had many more. And I need to commend the efforts that CAL FIRE gave to us, not only with pre-work by doing some tree mortality mitigation,
Right.
but during that fire, they were able to cut some breaks that allowed us, law enforcement, to evacuate over 20,000 people from these areas. And so they just did a great job, and I am glad to report that in Fresno County, we've had no loss of life.
Right.
I will say that in Fresno County, we understand that we need a strong partnership with our federal government, and we are ready, willing, and able to be your partner on this. We support,
And your state government,
of
right?
course.
That's going good, right?
Of course, we're getting what
I
we
have
need.
no doubt. Good.
In fact,
We had to mention that.
of the areas that we've mitigated, I think in Fresno County, we got 5 of those.
So you're working
thank
well
you.
with everybody?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President, for Thank you, Mr. President, for being here and listening to a very rural community and county in California. I'm at the far extreme end of the state up there that they were pointing to. My county continues to repeat the things that you saw in paradise when you were there on a smaller scale. The town of Happy Camp this year is under the Slater fire that took off, and in a 24-hour period, we lost 258 structures in a very small town. Half of my population is displaced at this point in time. We have 158 homes completely destroyed.
Will that population come back?
Sir, that's a tough question because these are very poor people anyway, and they're living through the downturn of the timber economy at this point, and there's very low employment in this area. We are completely surrounded by federal timber at this point that needs some active forest management that would both improve the economy of the area as well as even increase the water flow that is in shortage in California in some of these places. Personally, I'm coming to you as a forester, elected official, and a past land manager for the U.S. Forest Service and firefighter.
Right.
In this area, I've worked with UC Berkeley and UC Merced on some studies. Our forests in the northern region, which historically have been pretty asbestos-like, are carrying 4 times the density that they did in 1930. So we have both the increase in brush in the wildland interface, as well as the lack of management producing these extreme densities. And climate changes, and I can't do much about that. As a forester actively managing that forest, I can manipulate fuels, and I can do that in a pretty short order. I applaud you for the work you've done. I applaud you for the Farm Bill authorities. Our county just completed a master stewardship agreement with the U.S. Forest Service, and we have about a 500,000 acre project that's ready to go across all boundaries in our state and the 4 national forests that within
Well,
our
Gavin's working on that with me, and you make money too. You're cutting down trees, you're thinning it out, and you're selling those trees for a lot of money, and it's really pretty good in a lot of ways. And I guess one of the things are the cuts, the big, whether it's 50 yards or 100 yards, but the cuts to stop it from spreading. And that's always tough environmentally, but they can do it in a way that's pretty good. And I think now the environmentalists have come a long way after watching this.
Yeah.
The ones that really want to take care of a problem, they've come a long way. So they'll be thinning it out. Then you're working on a plan to thin it out.
That's what the plan is right now. I will say that we have excellent working relationships with CAL FIRE as well.
Good.
And we need to marry the state programs with the federal programs across boundaries and jurisdictional boundaries, so that we're effective in moderating large fire behavior.
Good.
And Mr. President, just to the supervisor's point, that's exactly what the stewardship partnership that we advance with your administrations will do in the next 20 years, is we're sharing maps, we're sharing resources, we're prioritizing, we're doubling the number of acres federally managed, state managed, and I will say just humbly, we've got to double it still, meaning the partnership was significant. It was first in California's history with the U.S. government, but we're going to need to do a lot more
Well,
to the
I'm all
extent we
for
can
it.
provide
That's
more
something
support.
I feel so strongly about. You can knock this down to nothing. You go to Europe and different places in Europe, countries where they're forest countries, and they're very, very strong on management, and they don't have a problem. They really don't have, with, as they say, more explosive trees than we have in California. So thank you very much for your comments. But we're working on that very hard together, and I think we're totally in sync. I really think we're totally in sync.
Governor?
We're going to see you in a few minutes for the award ceremony. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Governor, if I could just briefly.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor. And this is beautiful aircraft we're looking at. Look at that beautiful, very expensive plane for good reason. Today it's my profound honor to award 7 extraordinary soldiers with the Distinguished Flying Cross for their remarkable courage to rescue their fellow citizens. I want to very much thank Major General Matthew Beavers for being with us today. Thank you, General. Thank you very much. Thank you, General, very much. It's a great honor to see you. I want to welcome, and please sit down. Families, please sit down. You're all very proud of these gentlemen, I think, right? I think. Is anybody not proud of their husband? Is anybody not proud? No? Good. Then we'll proceed. Welcome to Chief Warrant Officers Joseph Rosamond, Kip Godding, Irvin Hernandez, Brady Labine, Ji Jung, and Sergeants George Esquivel and Cameron Powell. Thank you very much, and I will say that it's such an honor to be in your presence. You'll hear a story shortly that was very inspiring to me and to everybody else, and that's why these are very important medals, and it's great to be with you. Joining us are also warriors, but warriors of a different type. They're called Great Congressmen, and they're from your area. Doug LaMalfa. Thank you, Doug, very much. Appreciate it. Tom McClintock. Thanks, Tom. Doing a great job. And Greg Walden, and we'll miss you, Greg. I can't believe you're not going to be there. He's retiring undefeated. Nobody would defeat him. But it's a great honor, and it's really been fantastic working with Greg. We worked on something in particular, Right to Try, right, Greg? And we got it done. After 44 years, we got it done. So thank you very much. Just over 1 week ago, these brave pilots and crew members of the California Army National Guard embarked on a harrowing mission. As the sun set on September 5th, they boarded 2 helicopters that are behind me. Then they flew into blazing flames, raging wind, and it was raging, and blinding smoke to rescue families who were trapped by the massive creek fire at the Mammoth Pool campground. While they were on their way to the campground, the crew received word from state and local officials and headquarters that it was far too dangerous to continue the mission, turn back. But they decided to continue anyway, knowing they might not return. They knew that people were in danger, great danger. As night set in, they could see almost nothing through the miles of dense smoke. Using their night goggles and their expert navigation skill, they reached the camp. They found the stranded families, many of whom were badly burned and injured, and they loaded them, as many as they could, onto the 2 helicopters. Then they made the perilous flight back to the base. As soon as they unloaded the passengers, they again risked their lives and flew back into the blazing fire to rescue more victims. Their superiors said, "You cannot do this, you cannot do it again." They did it. The smoke had become even more overpowering, yet they returned a 3rd time. After 10 grueling hours, they completed their mission, having saved the lives of an astounding 242 people. We are proud of them. Wow. That's an incredible story. And I spoke to some people that really didn't want you to do it. They didn't want you to go back on those flights. To each of you, your unyielding and undying determination lifts our nation. You're what makes our nation great, and we thank you very much. Thank you very much. Incredible job. Over the last week, these devoted soldiers have continued to rescue more stranded individuals from danger. In fact, less than 48 hours after their rescue at Mammoth Pool, they flew to another treacherous mission. On the first 2 attempts, they were forced to turn around and they were advised to abort the mission. You must abort the mission. But they chose to try a 3rd time at great risk to their own lives. Through tremendous skill and incredible valor, they saved 50 people from absolute imminent danger. Our nation is strong because of remarkable individuals like these service members In the midst of our greatest trials and biggest challenges, America prevails because of the brave and selfless patriots who risk everything so that they may save lives of people in many cases that they don't know. They have no idea who they are. It's like law enforcement. They save the lives of people that, for the most part, they have no idea who they are, but they're so determined to do it. Today, our country honors their courage, and we're inspired by their example, and we thank God for the blessing and all of our blessings that you're safe. Our nation has really benefited by your bravery, and on behalf of our great nation, I thank you very much. As your president, I thank you very much. Great job. And now I'd like to ask the military aide to come forward and read the citation, please. Okay, thank you.
Attention to orders. The President of the United States hereby awards the Distinguished Flying Cross to Chief Warrant Officer 5, Joseph Rosamond; Chief Warrant Officer 5, Kip Godding; Chief Warrant Officer 2, Brady Labine; Chief Warrant Officer 2, Irvin Hernandez; Warrant Officer 1, Ji Zheng; Sergeant George Esquivel, Jr., and Sergeant Cameron Powell of the California Army National Guard for distinguished acts of heroism and extraordinary achievement in aerial flight on September 5, 2020. The brave actions and superior airmanship of these soldiers resulted in the successful rescue of 242 adults and children from the rapidly developing Creek Fire in Central California. Their actions are in keeping with the highest military traditions of selfless service, honor, and personal courage, and reflects great credit upon themselves, the 40th Combat Aviation Brigade, the California Army National Guard, and the United States Army.